live.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday. It's Woodstock TV. It's Conant show. Thanks for tuning in. And I also always like to thank Paula Gloria Barton for teching and making this all happen in such a good way. And this evening we have a lovely, lovely guest, Fantuzzi, who has a lot of history with Woodstock that I know nothing about. I've just met him seconds ago, and
but we'll do the video.
Now, do you want to move into a clip here, video clip,
and then we'll go.
We'll introduce you all to Fantuzzi for a little while here. She's good at this stuff.
Hemp can save the world from many a disease. Make better paper without cutting trees. The tensions of this world, this earth can ease. We've had enough of war, it's time for peace. You can make clothes with it. You can make food with it. You can make paper with it. You can make fuel with it. Hep, hep. Hep, hep. As it was in the beginning, is now, and forever shall be. World without end. Its medical uses cannot be denied. Its spiritual uses can be realized. Stop warring on people and open your eyes. Nature's gift must be legalized. You can make clothes with it. You can make food with it. You can make paper with it. You can make fuel with it. Can save the world from many a disease. Make better paper without cutting trees. George Washington, the father of his nation, smoked his homegrown medication. Thomas Jefferson, known for the Bill of Rights, smoked his herb both day and night. And Dr. Ship prescribed it, and that is for sure. But glaucoma, asthma, it can be a cure. 3,500 uses, brothers and sisters, wake up. Bass and drums. Ganja, 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 sacred herb. Offer it up. Conscious body, conscious. Sacred to Lord Shiva. the sadhu, to the Rastaman. Healing, healing, healing herb. Yeah, man. As it was in the beginning, is now, and forever shall be. A world without end. World without end. World without end. World without end. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth.
Okay.
All right, I'm back here, folks. We're struggling a little bit with our DVD recorder, and we have a real special guest here, and so we're just going to plow along forward here. So you're playing at Harmony tonight, 9:30?
And I thought it was 8 o'clock. Yes, 8 p.m.
8 p.m. you're starting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a little early for Shawu, but yeah, good.
Well, it is what is it, during the week,
Yeah.
and people are getting older.
No.
Some of us. Some
No,
of us
we're
are
all on
just
that train.
spring chickens.
Yeah, we're all on that
And
train,
everybody,
aren't we?
welcome home. I'm a man of all colors, all ages, all generations, all races.
Yeah.
Rainbow man.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I bet you are.
Yeah. I was looking at the back of your book, and there's a famous photo from the Newsweek. Yeah, that's, and I kind of like grew up. You know, I was 9 years old when that
Happened.
came into our home.
When Woodstock happened.
When Woodstock
It's a picture
happened.
of me at Woodstock.
Yeah, that's you know, this comes up a lot in this show about the magnitude of that particular event, and kind of how even though, you know, the real concert grounds were in White Lake, New York, and such, but the overall advertising was Woodstock. And
The energy came from this town.
Came from this town, and
Everything, the musicians, promoters, etc.
Yeah, and this has sort of catapulted our little town into the world's most famous little town.
It's pretty much that.
Yeah, it really is, and there's almost a responsibility, I feel, you know, as a Woodstock TV producer, that we carry the message on.
Hope.
You
Wonderful.
know, and because the world kind of looks to us for that. You know, what is the message? You know, I mean, there's the common core, you could say, message of love and peace and that sort of thing, but I think the message evolves.
It keeps transforming and changing as everything else does on this planet and in this world.
Yeah.
You know, and so we're different at this point than we were back then. You
Yeah.
were 9.
Yeah.
And I was 17 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, we learn a lot and we change a lot. And I think we're more seasoned and there's more wisdom. But in the core, it's the same.
Yeah.
In the core, in our heart of heart.
Yeah. I you know, I do a musical thing every Sunday over at the movie theater that I manage, Upstate Films movie theater. It used to be at Tinker Street Cinema. And one of my neighbors, Billy Militello, would hang out and watch Jimi Hendrix rehearse there on Sunday mornings. And I've been doing the Sunday morning jam for 6 years now. Really dedicated. From 10 in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon. And I've had a couple of players with me that have been with me this whole time. One, Vito Piccinini, he's a horn player. But one of the things that I kind of like in my mind, thinking, well, I'm jamming with Jimmy. The spirit of the idea that is still there, and the feeling that you are bringing here into the studio tonight is a high charge. There's a real charge of lovely energy, and I want to thank you for that. I haven't had a live guest in about a month, so I'm a little rusty keeping the role. But the idea that I have had as my musical experiment has been going on is that one of the things I learned over the years is that as a composer and writer and performer, I only have one song. And each of the pieces that I'll do for an audience is just like a page or a chapter.
Yeah.
But I only have one vibration. I only have the one feeling. I'm always looking for something new, and by gosh, it's always the same in my mind. To other people, they feel different. But how I relate that is like Joni Mitchell. You hear it, doesn't matter who plays it. It's Joni Mitchell. Same with John Lennon or anybody. Who's gotten into our cultural milieu. You hear their music and their vibration comes through, and I just want, how does that, do you relate to that, or?
Yeah, well, I like, when I hear you say that, I hear, I'm a one trick pony.
A one-trick pony.
So it's like we got what we got, and call it whatever you want, but I like the thing you said, that you just look for as many ways to express that in different ways.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's the same, and I feel that is correct. People have been trying to put me in a box. I like to call my music Latin reggae Afro funk with a mystic twist, and that would be a big mystic twist. But that's just words in a way. You know what I mean? To help you understand where I'm at. It's been the same since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
When I first picked up a drum at 14 years old, 1965, when I jumped in front of Jimi Hendrix one day, when Jimmy was probably too busy with some girl backstage or God knows what.
Yeah.
And everybody was waiting and bored shit, and I just jumped up on stage and started banging the hell out of a drum and got a standing ovation when I left the stage before he came on. See, it's not about having the balls to get up there. It's also to know when to get off.
Yes.
And I feel I'm mastering that,
Yeah.
And I try to just, I can't be fit in a box, which is why the music industry has never had a place for me.
Yeah, it's almost, to me, it's a strange concept to have those two words in one sentence, music and industry. Because the spiritual twist, as you say, I once, said, well, this kind of music is spiritual, and my organ player, keyboard player goes, oh, no, all music's spiritual. So I said, okay, you win. I couldn't really argue that.
Jimi Hendrix, being who he was, with a lot of this wildness about him, and drugs that he took and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, maybe some people have a hard time seeing the spiritual side, but it was really easy to experience, because when you went to see him, something happened. He left you with something. It was hard to describe, but really easy to experience. And so, and it was transforming you. So you had a chance to be a new you. And that's when I experienced that, after all the music and all the artists I had seen, I finally realized what it was I came here to do.
Yeah.
Is to transmit that energy of transformation. And it doesn't really matter how I do it, because I started with theater, I moved to dance, toured with a dance company all the way to India, and it's all in my book. And I moved in music. I say love. I was love napped by music. That's what I call it.
Yeah, that's
I surrendered.
Yeah.
So I don't do that much dancing. I do dancing for my own soul, but I don't do choreography and dance theater for the public. That's not what I do much anymore. Or theater, period, which is what I started with.
Beautiful, beautiful. Gave me so much to feel for a minute there. So, plug your book for a minute. Tell me about it. Share here. We got the cameras on here, and we can pull a pretty good close up onto the cover. If all you got to do is just point it towards one of those cameras, especially
Man,
the one.
You guys are fancy people. I don't know if I'm quite that ready, but let's see how I do.
There you
How's
go.
that?
And there we go.
So it's called Love at First Bite. And it's delicious. It's a super good read. And hopefully it has that energy that I was just talking about.
Yeah.
Like inspirational, transformational vibration with songs, pictures, poems, and stories. From meeting the Dalai Lama to jumping up on stage before Jimmy, to showing up at Woodstock and ending up on the cover of Newsweek, naked, almost naked.
Yeah. We have a connection through the Dalai Lama.
Yummy, tashidale.
And when I was really at the beginning of my journey into the native philosophy and community at a place called Cattaraugus. It's a Seneca Nation near Buffalo, New York. We had a lovely elder, Grandma Twyla. And she was really sought out by all the New Age movement people of the day, and a lot of some of the UFO writers would seek her out. Brad Steiger, I met him, and Jamie Sams, a couple other great writers, in this kind of thing. But one day we get a call from the State Department that the Dalai Lama wanted to have a meeting with her. And what was really interesting about this is that they didn't use that term, so we really didn't know who was coming.
Oh,
so
wow!
The Dalai of the fifth house of the Fontenelle.
You were surprised that when you saw the Dalai Lama.
So we knew it was a high level Lama, but we didn't know. Did. But the black grandma and those of us who were her students and living on the property there on the reservation. So the limousines pull up about an hour later. I mean, this was like totally caught us off guard, and I put lunch together, and it was quite remarkable. These State Department guys, with the stuff behind the ear and the suits, right? They were kind of walking around, and
they had to kind of protect.
But there was these like Shaolin warrior priest monks.
Also, that were there.
About 12 or 13 of these guys, and they were big boys. They were like, I was like, oh, wow, and they were all in these, the robes, orange and purple kind of coloring robes. And so they were in their finery, and we're dressed like, jeans and flannel and, and kind of casual, we're in the living room and in a big circle sitting on the floor, and translator is there. And it turns out that the Dalai Lama had a dream that a native elder grandmother specifically had a message for him. But he didn't know what the question was. Right. So he had a question, but he didn't know to get the answer. But he didn't know. So he was asking around. Did anybody, from California to New York? Everybody said, "Oh, you got to see Twilight." So that's how that happened. So we're all in the circle, and there's an awkward moment. And through the interpreter, the question comes, where are your holy people? Because we were dressed so casually. And Grandma looks at me and just flashes this cat ate the canary grin, and her eyes start twinkling, and she says through the interpreter, I thought everyone was holy. Yes, right, okay, I forget, that was question, meeting over. Just like that. And it was a great laugh, and it was a great thing, but for whatever reason, there was this very beautiful exchange.
Oh my God, everything to do with the Dalai Lama is like that. I have a story of the Dalai Lama in here. Let's see if I can shorten it. I went to the Earth Summit down in Rio de Janeiro, and we were asked as the spiritual community to give a blessing on this meeting by doing prayers all night long. The ayahuasca community had the biggest meeting they ever had. 500 people or something were taking sacrament together, and I became one of those. And then sure enough, I ended up showing up at the ending of this whole ritual by everybody, the Sufis, the Hindus, the this and the that's. Everyone was there, like 10,000 of us. And the Dalai Lama was going to give us a blessing at the end. I couldn't find a place to sit when it was time to get the blessing from the Dalai Lama. So I went under the stage, and I was really off on this ayahuasca, so I kept imagining anacondas and all kinds of things. I saw a light at the end of the tunnel. I went for it, under the stage, I mean. And there were stairs there, so I walked up on stage, and there was these guys that you were mentioning, with the suits and all the little ear things, and I smiled at them with the biggest loving smile, and they figured I belonged. Now the craziest thing is that there were 7 seats there, and every head of every religion was there, but there was one seat missing. So I figured that was my seat, and I went and sat there in front of 10,000 people with the heads of the Jewish people, the Catholics, the this, the that, the Hindus, and the Muslims, and I think I was told I might have been representing the rest of us. And that's
I was just going to say, well, you were representing the rest of us.
That's right, because we don't belong to a specific world religion, but we are a spiritual community. And sure enough, everybody felt I was in the right place. Nobody said anything, so I just stayed there. The Dalai Lama gave the biggest blessing, went and bowed at every person, every head of the religions. When he came to me, he winked at me, bowed, and gave me good job.
You did well. That's great.
And the Dalai Lama is always doing well by me, because he's saying don't hate the enemy. Don't kill the enemy. They're human.
Yeah.
They're doing the best they can. They need a little bit of adjustment, It's kind of like the government that's happening right now. Somehow I'm praying and hoping transformation happens in there, that we may move forward. I know it may be silly hoping. I don't think there's anything silly about it, and I got a little story. The day I came into Woodstock after that Wednesday morning after Tuesday election night, it was like, who died? Nobody was open. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. Nothing's open. It was like, there was this tragic vibe in the town. And I don't vote because I like to stand on my native rights. If I vote, then I'm giving permission to a system that will then use my vote to annihilate my native rights and make me a citizen. See, and I was born into this system, and I went out of it. I jumped into the canoe with the Indians. You see. And being that I'm a rainbow child, right? I have Irish and Mongol and Chippewa and Wampanoag and all these different parts to make me as a whole. I have that desire to identify with what's here,
because I can't identify with what's over there. I'm here now, so this is where I am, and what's here is a very ancient spiritual tradition and culture, and it's very ancient because it works. It works.
That's what counts, right, in the end.
Right?
I mean, that's very, very important. Thank you for sharing. You know, I'm also going to be in New York City in a few different places. I don't know if this is going to be broadcast in New York at all?
No, not.
No, not this.
Not
Okay, well, my Woodstockers, I was living here. I bought a piece of land here about 35 years ago in Bearsville, and I bought a 100-year-old log cabin.
Oh, wow.
And I opened up one side of it and built a 2-story house for my children and the mother
Beautiful.
of my children. And I was here also before the Woodstock Festival, like 68, as a 16-year-old kid, hanging out with the coolest people in this town. So somehow I'm connected with this community.
Yes.
And I've been looking at some houses for sale, and they're looking cheap.
Yeah.
At this point in my life, you know, back then I didn't have $1 to my name, and and now I'm like, you know, maybe I could buy one of these cheap houses and spend the summers or whatever, you know. It's wonderful to be a part of this community. Forgive me for not having spent more time, but I've had to run around the world and, like Johnny Appleseed, you know, plant a little bit of the Woodstock love and magic and the Aloha love and magic, you know.
Johnny Appleseed has a huge connection to Woodstock.
He does, huh?
Yeah, it's come to think of it.
And so does Fantuzzi.
Yes.
You know? Fantuzzi is my name. Your name again?
I'm George.
George, you know, it's really wonderful to be here. And it's really nice to meet you. Thank you for sharing. You're somebody who jumped in the canoe.
Yeah.
I'll remember that. I love that. I have some Taino blood also. I'm Puerto Rican, and in Puerto Rico, before the Spaniards and the Africans came, we were the Taino people there. And most of it, because we're such a small island, you know, everybody's making love with everybody. So we're all black, and we're all white and European, and we're all Taino, native.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing, you know?
Yes, it is.
I call it the Rainbow Island also, because every time I'm there, I think about that. Like, wow, this is the place that everybody is here. We're all family. There's no, you know, prejudice in it. It's just like we're all family.
You know, you know, when you brought up the idea that, you know, the wisdom of the Dalai Lama, that, you know, don't make war upon your enemy, you know, because they're doing the best they can. And you know, this made me think of that day, that Wednesday after the Trump election, and how, you know, the liberals here really suffered, you know, emotionally quite severely for weeks, actually. But what I would say to these people, you know, I'm in an interesting position because my education was 25 years with Mohawks and Senecas, and those two nations took me in as Wolf Clan. I followed a wolf. So those are the teachings of the wolf. And they, you know, what most people don't kind of get is that, you know, Trump's a figurehead just like any other figure. Why are you scared of him? He can only pull the levers that he's told to pull, and they're not really connected to anything. I mean, he's done some interesting things that I like, actually, you know, with the free trade and knocking that down, and, you know, all that NAFTA-GATT and all that stuff that, you know, harms the indigenous people of other countries, and then it wipes out our economy here at the middle class, and that was a good thing. But then, you know, opening up all this drilling in sensitive ecological areas is a bad thing. So, you know, yeah, I mean, I can complain.
Breaking treaties was not a good thing.
Yeah, breaking treaties, it's not cool. Nonetheless, we give too much power to these fears.
Yeah,
way too much power.
Yeah, really.
You know, and the greatest thing is that, you know, as difficult as it is to live with our government for many of us, for the things that go on, it still has checks and balances. You know, it can't just serve us a lot, you know, if it was really as bad as everybody felt it is, we wouldn't have the show. We wouldn't be able to talk about it.
Exactly.
You know?
They wouldn't even. They don't know. That's because they don't know. Many people out there do not know how bad it
Can be
and is in other places.
In other places, yes.
You know that, like you said, we couldn't be talking like this. We'd have to have the car on, and be ready.
And be ready to
watch out on each corner,
right?
To make a run for it.
Thought police and so on.
And then there's also, well, I was in Cuba. I was spending a lot of time. I just made a film and an album in Cuba. FantuzziMusic.com is www.fantuzzimusic.com if you're interested in checking out my new album. And it's called, well, I haven't really come up with a name. I'm using Fantuzzi in Cuba, but that's just a working title.
Okay.
But it's all Cuban music with Cuban artists, and the magic of the music there is amazing. And the musicians are off the charts. I mean, they're so good. It's crazy.
Yeah, one of my heroes, Tito Puente.
Really? Well, he's Puerto Rican, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay.
Long Island.
Celia Cruz, you didn't know, was Cuban, possibly. And she is from Cuba, but was never allowed to go back.
Oh.
So the government there was actually a little bit rough, let's say. But at the same time, it was for the people. It is and has created education for everybody. And hello, America. Education for everybody. Healthcare for everybody. Hello, America.
Yes.
I mean, this is a little country. But you know what I mean? And they're pulling it off with some of the best education in the world.
Correct. Yeah, I've heard that.
And we're like number 20 or below that.
Yeah, well, that's by design, sadly.
Yeah,
that's by design.
It's
you know,
sad
there's a real impetus to dumb our public down, and that's a sad thing. I mean, I was a homeschooler with my son, and the resistance that we got from the system, was remarkable, and that's even since 2000. You think we'd be evolving more and getting more support for homeschoolers, and but while this was so fresh in my mind at the time, this California bill gets introduced to really punish homeschoolers, like make it illegal, because it turns out, now after, say, a generation of homeschooling really having taken root, something like 40% of admissions into Ivy League schools are homeschoolers. And these kids are now young adults, are reading, writing, and arithmecing a lot better than what's coming out of the colleges and system.
Yeah.
And so this bill coming out of California, boy, I wish I could remember the senator, because it's so infuriating, wanted to really shut down the homeschooling movement in California because they were not interested in quality education. They were interested in obedient citizens. And this is coming right out of this is the man's stump speech. And I'm like, wow, whoo, what a thought. Who are you playing with tonight?
That's, what's his name? Phil.
Phil Void.
Our own Phil Void.
Phil Void, the Dharma Bombs. Who else would I be playing for but the Dharma Bombs?
All right.
Lovely crew. They go and jam at the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
Joe calls him the Dalai Lama's house band. Can I ask a question?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. Let me do over here. Fantuzzi, and looking around at your website here, I see that you have some interesting photographs of snakes. And I would like to put those up and see if you could talk about that, because people have such a fear of what you seem to be considered another part of the mother's loving
embrace.
Yeah.
And blessing.
Yeah.
As you very well know, the serpents, the snake, has been a symbol of spirituality in lots and lots of cultures. And, it's the healing symbol. Two snakes intertwining themselves, and I've always had a personal, besides whatever ever anybody else sees, I've always felt really close to the divine when I get a hit of being close to a snake.
Oh.
It's like my connection to spirit. That's why the book is called Love at First Bite. Though I've caught hundreds or thousands of snakes, and plenty of them poisonous, one of them did bite me.
Oh.
And the book is told from that perspective of having the experience of a snake bite, which, if it's a rattlesnake, and if you're a shaman type of person, you're going for the best ride of your life. And that's what I had. And, you know, snakes are just, like, they don't ever mess with people unless you're messing
With them. Yeah.
They leave you totally alone. And I do mess with them, and it's not really messing with them. It's doing my shamanic work with them. I've stopped because I'm wanting to be around for my great grandchildren. You know.
So you know you're kind of inviting danger?
Well,
because I loved your stories in Topanga Canyon about when you were bitten by the rattlesnake, because I'm from California, and a helicopter had to come in.
That's right. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And, you know, I don't suggest anybody else to do that trip because, you know, it was also the biggest pain that I ever experienced. This snake that bit me left a lot of very powerful venom. But it's not what happens to us. Is how we respond to what happens to us. So instead of after 3 months being in bed healing, and coming with a terrible story about this snake experience, I came with new life. I said, thank you, God, for giving me a vision into what my true purpose is, and that is certainly not to be chasing no record deals, going down a rabbit hole of some record company or record industry, but more like going to the hearts of the people. 140 countries I have covered. And I'm going to continue until I can't anymore. And I feel like the snake told me that it was time to get back on the road and stop chasing my own tail looking for a record deal. And I'm ever so grateful.
George, I'm so fascinated with Fantuzzi's answer because Fantuzzi and I haven't seen each other for a while. And I have gone through cancer since we saw each other. Wow. And I can say the exact same thing. Now, the reason that I find this such a fortuitous event and to see these pictures so beautifully displayed on your website, particularly this one, there's going to be a bit of a delay before you can see it because our equipment isn't functioning right. That one shows some real joy and connection. Now, I would never wish cancer on anybody either, but at the same time, it had to be one of the most precious experiences to save my soul. Amen. To save my soul, to not be going in a wrong direction. And I can see George here right now really deeply taking this in. And I can say also, at the lowest part of my recovery is what's the purpose of life? And to have launched George as a new talent on Woodstock TV gave me such, you know, I would drag in here and do it because there was nobody else to do it, and I knew it needed to be done. But I want to take this opportunity to kick it up a little using all our skills of nonviolent communication. I'm a little bit disturbed when, you know, we should get rid of enemy images and of blame and guilt and shame-producing communication, and you've been so good at that. Oh, I've watched you for years, Fantuzzi, how you can work with everyone. I'm a little uncomfortable when they call people reptiles or lizards, and that's why I thought you would be the one to give this kind of blessing to bring us all together in unity. In other words, nonviolent communication is about breaking the corporate veil, because corporations are just legal fictions, but all of the people that work in them have feelings and needs. And if we can operate that way, I've been with call centers now for hours these last few days. And in the past, I used to get so angry and upset at the corporation. And now I'm thrilled. It doesn't matter what is the outcome, because I know I've got it laid out and on the record where I'm coming from. I know that despite Trump and Tom Rutledge, who's the CEO of Spectrum, saying that we now have call centers somewhere in Texas, well, every single call center I got to was from the Philippines, and I said, I love the Philippines. I love Filipinos. I used to have a wicker furniture store. I brought bamboo furniture in, so I know firsthand. So when I empathize that these people are worried about losing their jobs, you also see how smart they are, because they appreciate the logic that I'm using. George understands this better because he's the treasurer of a board of about 12 Woodstock TV producers now. And, you know, we have some pretty big hurdles ahead of us. But when you come into town and I just hear about it, and you're open-hearted and you come on and say, yes, I will be here, and we can go out live. Going out live has a lot of legal significance, legal implication. And then you're saying you're actually going to be playing over at Shai Wu's. That means you're not a legal fiction. And right now there's a big struggle for the name Woodstock, but you're as Woodstock as it gets. And he is, you know, George is the manager of our theater. So I went so long, George. Talk about reptiles.
Well, okay, that was a convoluted thought. There's a lot to chew on that one. But I was ruminating on the snake, because I have a mama rattlesnake up at the cabin where I live on top of Mount Tobias here in Bearsville. And I always mow the lawn up there. It's actually getting to that time. And about 4 years ago, mowing around the apple trees that are reputed to be one of Johnny Appleseed's plantings up there. They're old, gnarly, ancient trees, hey? And I almost barrel right into this 6-foot-long rattlesnake. Woo! But I stopped at a respectful distance, made eye contact, and just continued mowing around him. Got a little closer because I wanted to get that area done, but okay, then through that summer, it would turn up at different locations, other little, little oregano patch or whatever. So I really would have to pay attention mowing, because I don't like to harm animals either, And about 2 summers ago, I go out my door, and there she is, coiled up in front of my door. There was no other door out. None of the windows would let me out, in an easy kind of fashion. So I had no choice but to step over my rattlesnake.
Ooh, and you did?
And I did.
That's scary,
And she just watched, no flickering of the tail. The rattle was this long. I mean, a good-sized rattle.
I was bit before she rattled.
Wow.
I called him Peligro. I gave him a name. That's a masculine name. It means danger in Spanish.
Well, I'm just saying she, because I don't know how to tell the sex of them. But in the last 2 summers since that event, it has left several skins, sheddings.
Ooh, did you pick them up?
And I would pick them up, and the mice would get them anyway. But it has actually drawn closer to hanging around my space.
Right.
And part of the thing is I don't have screens in my windows, and so one of the things that I do is I make an agreement with my surroundings. Mm-hmm. So birds, insects, snakes, whatever. Look, this is my space. This is where I sleep. I really don't want to hurt you or harm you out of defending my space or feeling So just respect it, and I'll respect you. And by and large, the mosquitoes don't come in.
Super.
And the birds complain when I don't feed them. These little birds, these little
and the rattlesnake isn't bugging you.
And well, the rattlesnake has made a fine job of keeping the rodents down.
Oh.
So there's a symbiotic relationship going on with everybody here.
Wow.
So on that point, when you talk about, like, are we going towards like the lizard people? Was that where you were going, or
I'm just looking for any kind of solution, and after I do something I call Fantuzzi, I call Spiritual Sunday, where I get like 8 hours here. I go from 10 o'clock in the morning until 6. I read the Vedas for 2 hours. I mean, I just go deeply. We do psychoanalysis. Hyman Spotnitz in '79 went farther than Sigmund Freud in curing schizophrenia. It takes a lot of energy, but you can do it without medication. And so after doing this, Joe really wanted to do this thing on depopulation, you're next. And I was a little hesitant, but so after I'd say about 6 hours of deeply spiritual stuff, Joe comes on, well, the lunatics that are running this world, and so but then I said, well, he has a healthy access to his aggression, because we're dual drive, love and hate work, and we had a beautiful native Indian from the Lakota putting up her eagle feather. It looks like a fan, and she said there's the middle path and the dark path and the light path, and you choose which path you go on. So I realized, darkness is here. You do have hate, you do have war, but we have to steer a course between it. So it always comes up, who are the bad guys? Who's causing my problem? And when a fellow producer who's very into Jesus gave me this book, Beyond Belief, by Elaine Padgels, who used to be married to Hans Selye, a scientist, a physicist. They talk about physics. It really explained the gospel according to Thomas as opposed to John. And both of these two, as opposed to Matthew, Mark, and Luke, were supposed to have had secret teachings. And that's why, after I read the chapter, usually Joe is not so thrilled about a lot of my spiritual guruism, He thinks I missed out on a lot of fun in life. But when I read this third chapter to him, it was so moving, and it made me realize that I can see that John came along and said, this is the one and only. It had to be Jesus, nothing else but Jesus. Because I think he didn't want people to get I shouldn't say didn't think, he wanted to, whatever the cosmos was moving, that you wouldn't think that it's blasphemy to say that you're God. And yet, when you look at Thomas and the way they lay out the sequence, it's also a huge responsibility. And we as public access producers here in Woodstock have a lot of responsibility before us right now. I mean, we have to conduct ourselves perfectly to get through this maze in dealing with this corporate structure, because even the headquarters of Gramercy Park, of Spectrum, is in Gramercy Park. And we're starting to see a pattern here, my eviction and now my intellectual property. And so when George, who I really, really thank for explaining what the chemtrails is all about, explaining what the Wilhelm Reich machines are about, the orgone machines and things, and his own UFO collection with his own photographs done with 35 millimeter film, not Photoshop kind of things. When he started talking about the powerful people in the world not actually being human, it just, because of your presence here, I can bring up this very sensitive issue. I haven't addressed it to you before, George, because Joe gets very much into enemy images, but he can always back it with facts. And that's why in court he's been able to hold his own. It's not like a multi-million-dollar win, which I think are probably done in administrative insurance claim settlements. But can we have you two talk about the lizard people? And can we communicate with everybody so that our needs, first of all, we have to be 80% of what's bugging us is because our needs aren't being met. and 20% are our feelings. If we can access our feelings, then we can get to the needs. And this way, we break the corporate structure, not going in and declaring ourselves, but we start to feel those feelings. And at first, they can be very scary, because the gospel here of Thomas, when Jesus is talking to Thomas, he says, keep seeking, and at first you will be troubled, and then you'll be astonished.
Well, if I'm hearing you right, when I make a comment about non-human intelligence, it could mean a lot of different things. It could mean artificial intelligence, machine intelligence. It can mean, extra-dimensional, higher evolutionary beings that are a non-human origin. One would have to think outside the box to be able to accept views like that, because for many of us here with boots on the ground, us with our feet on the ground, and living our day-to-day mundane lives of having to pay the bills, get the kids off to school, whatever it is that you got to do every day, we don't really have time to pursue, who really has authority over us. And in my spiritual explorations and commitments to a higher thought, the most honest answer I can give is, I don't know. It's a mystery. I don't know, and I don't think really anybody does know who's in charge on this planet, and what the nature of our reality really is. But what I do know from my personal experience is that it's a personal responsibility to slay the dragons in my own mind and heart before I can even talk to anybody else from whatever camp they may be from. If I can't clean my own screen, if I can't clean my own interior house, then I really can't even begin to assess what's around me. So that's kind of like a first step, is like, as you say, maybe you're calling it getting in touch with your feelings so that you can get in touch with
Meet the needs.
Meet the needs. A lot of us don't even know what our needs and feelings are, which I think maybe might be the thing. But in terms of the control paradigm, the designers of culture, the designers of our technology, the designers of the clothes we wear, there is an awful lot of impetus, a lot of energy that is put into shaping our minds, shaping our feelings, shaping our trends in our style. And, my good friend Lloyd would always say, really two things. Don't get excited. Don't get excited, because when you become emotionally charged, you can't. Your screen gets cloudy. You can't get a clean view of something. And then the other thing is don't give it permission. So if it is a non-human intelligence that is directing the wars on the planet and the corruption of our minds and our bodies, then no matter what it is, you could call it lizard people, you could call it artificial intelligence or aliens or whatever, demons. It still comes down to, are you giving it permission to operate?
Very good. Very well said. I like that. I like that. I feel a similar way. It's all energy. And you could call the different energies of positive and negative, of dark and light energies, by whatever name. Like if you're growing up in a Christian place, it will be the devil. Yeah. The devil and his team. And if you're from wherever, it's another. But whatever it is, like you said, you give it power. So that comes, I keep hearing the words being sovereign to oneself. So you don't give the power to a government. You don't give the power to aliens. You are your own king and queen. And you are taking responsibility for what you're allowing to come into your mind, heart, soul, and life.
Yeah.
And the power of love is the strongest power in the universe. So not even hate, even though it'll make a louder noise possibly, but in the end, it can't touch where love is.
Where love is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct.
That's a simple
So
way
much.
of saying it. I'm trying to keep it simple,
Well,
you know?
But Fantuzzi, say for example, a Rothschild royalty or a queen that all the money trail seems to be going to, Joe might say, well, you can't let people off their responsibility. You see, how do you use that love?
To change that?
If you're one of the people that don't have all of the power, due process, the law is set into place to protect every bit of creation,
God bless
just like
Joe.
God does.
He's a warrior. There's many different roles for all of us. And some of
Yeah.
us are TV host people, some of us, like our brother George, some of us are musicians, some of us are political activists, but each of us fit into the thing. And it is a little bit peculiar, you know, because being 65 years old now,
Me too.
and being around for this long, it's like, so when are we going to wake up? You know, like, when is all of that power, like you're saying, that goes into the hands of the people that are unconscious, that are just wanting to feed the machine, let's say, when is that going to get out of their hands and go into good, so that we could get on with what we're here to create,
Right.
to make heaven on earth? Well, I don't know that I know the answer. I don't know that anybody knows the answer. But as we get older, I see that we learn patience, because it usually takes a lot longer than what we think. And we do need to move forward. And there's a part of me that's a revolutionary person, that it's like, by any means necessary, like the Black Panthers were. And
Well,
like,
they were healers, the Black Panthers.
What's that?
They were healers, the Black
yeah,
Panthers.
loving people,
I mean,
feeding hungry kids that didn't have any food for breakfast.
No, they went,
opened up the clinics. They opened up the feeding
went to
places.
China, learned acupuncture. You know, we're
Yeah.
treating in the ghettos.
You know, I had this moment, all right, where I was in communication with a higher energy of some kind. I don't know what you could call it. I was young. I was in my teens. And maybe I was under the influence of something psychedelic. I don't know. It's been so long. But the thought that came to me, was almost a thought / vision, was the words came into my head, it only takes one. It only takes one person to realize, to actualize, and become whole. And then that one person can grab someone and pull them up, and then that person, and you have this upwelling of consciousness. But it only takes one, and your world won't be destroyed. And we're well beyond one person being conscious on this planet at this time.
Thank God
You know,
for that.
and so I'm thinking that, you know, when your opponent in a conflict starts lashing out and fighting harder, it's because they feel they're losing.
Exactly. And then what?
And then what?
Well, that's where the spiritual warrior comes in. We have to protect ourselves. We need the angels of light, like Archangel Michael. We need those strong, like in Hindu mythology, you have Hanuman. He is the symbol of devotion. And he has more muscles and he's stronger than anybody. But he's here for love and love only. He's not about ego or hoarding or any of that stuff. He's just here for loving service. And so those angels, I've been collecting their telephone numbers. And one of these days I might get them together. If not me, my son or somebody down the line
Yeah.
will bring the family together for that protection, because all the beautiful love people of the world, they're vulnerable.
Right.
And the demons, they take advantage of that. And somehow we have to find a balance where we are completely nonviolent, but we won't let them come and be violent, and be destructive.
There's a thought that I have about that, and that is that if we are a controlled society by beings that are of another order of life, say they're extra dimensional reptiles of some kind,
Okay.
all right, and let's say that they're predators, but from their culture and their point of view, they're just
hungry.
doing their thing.
They're hungry.
They're just doing their thing. They're not necessarily evil from their perspective, right? As when we're slaughtering a chicken, right?
Exactly.
We're feeding our family. So we could be just chickens to these guys. But, the thought that came into my head though is that there's a disdain for our species because we are so easily misled and convinced to do harm to ourselves, to our own species. And at that point, it's like, they make pretty good chickens, they don't have free medical for their own people. They don't do anything for themselves. They're so willing to go for the bait, the carrot on the stick,
right.
and
That's
be
right.
led into
War,
nuclear energy and war and all this kind of thing.
Destruction.
So we kind of deserve it on that level. So in your non-violent communication with the lizard people, and my consciousness going that direction,
Yeah.
is I kind of sort of respect them because, they're there if they are, and who's to say they're not? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know because I do a lot of thought experiment to try to figure stuff out. And that's one of the places I came to is like, if we can't behave and know the difference between right and wrong, this is problematic for our species.
In which case, this is a teacher. That's why what Fantuzzi was talking about. Look at that joy in his eyes. That doesn't look like he's encountering any evil energy. Based on what George just said, Fantuzzi, how did the lesson that you learned from this serpent, it was the scariest, the most painful thing, but how was it the greatest thing that you said?
Here we have to end, so I'm going to wrap it up with this little thing, I guess. There was a lot of time, like 3 months in bed, to get into a space to look really closely at my own mind, my life, my heart, my intentions. And I heard this little voice in that silence, and it said, free yourself. And if not you, who? Who are you going to wait? If not now, when? And it also said to, get out in the world and do my Johnny Appleseed thing and to live every day as if it was my last day. So don't be thinking so much about tomorrow. Take in what you've got right now and be grateful. Do the best that you can with it. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank you, Paula, and I want to thank you, George, and I hope to see some of you out there who are listening and watching tonight at Walk and Roll is what they call the Harmony Cafe.
That's
well,
it.
right?
Yep. Walk and roll. Yeah.
And 8 p.m. on Latin Reggae Afro Funk. If you want to taste some of the music, it's Fantuzzi, FantuzziMusic.com, www.fantuzzimusic.com. And I thank you so much for inviting me. And say a little prayer for me, because I'm leaving to Europe in a few days, and I'm in New York City for a few days doing some gigs, and I'm just gonna keep going till I can't go anymore. And instead of buying my place in Woodstock, because it gets so cold in the winter, I bought my place in Hawaii. And I'll see some of you maybe out there in the islands, because I plan to retreat there at some point.
Thank you. So let's
So
see
much.
Fantuzzi. Come right down. We're all going to be there, right, Heidi?
Yeah.
We're going over to Harmony.
All right.
See you guys there. God bless.
Okay.
All right.